In this video, I'm going to show you the one mindset shift that you need to better spur behavior change in your patients. My name is Dr. Joe Camerato. I'm with Across The Continuum, and my goal is to make you a better strength coach as a physical therapist. Now, anybody who has worked in the musculoskeletal field for more than a day knows that the name of the game is behavior change. Now, behavior comes from the beliefs that people hold on to, because if they didn't believe in whatever they were doing, then they wouldn't behave that certain way. And our job as physical therapists is usually to find that behavior that's maybe bringing on these symptoms or sensitizing whatever they're feeling or what have you, and trying to pick apart the behaviors that we want to alter, or we know that doing something a different way might be a better idea. The goal being that if we can change the behavior, then we can alter what they're feeling as far as symptoms go and push them towards a more healthy lifestyle. But what it comes down to is that we need to figure out what beliefs they're holding on to so that we can alter those to our benefit to try and push that behavior. The tough thing about changing somebody's mind is that it has to come from them. We can provide as much value or as much education and information as we can as an authority figure, but at the end of the day, they need to believe us and they need to make that behavior change. We can't tell them to make a behavior change and they just do it. It happens once they are ready to make that change, and no sooner. Now, there is one thing that I want to talk about today, and that is the differences between a topic rebuttal and a technique rebuttal. And when we look at something called a topic rebuttal, it's basically the idea that somebody's going to make a claim and then we're going to discuss that or argue about it. What we're trying to do is we're trying to take that claim, which we might not agree with, and support a different claim or try and put a different claim into that position. The idea being that if we can tell the person that their claim is not accurate, then they will then believe that something new and their behavior will change for the better, in our opinion at least. Essentially what's happening is that when we take somebody and their belief and the claim that they're making and say that we believe in something different, in a roundabout way we're saying that they're wrong and we're right. And if there's anything that people don't want to hear, is that they're wrong. When people hear that they're wrong, they usually clam up a little bit, or they'll try and defend their claim that they have made. And so when that claim comes up, it's in our best interest to not say that they're wrong and we're right, or to not point out that they are incorrect. And that's where the topic rebuttal kind of sits. Somebody makes a claim, we generally disagree with that claim, and then we attack that claim in and of itself. Let's say how much protein a patient should be intaking. If they say, I've heard protein is bad for my kidneys, and if I eat too much of it, my kidneys are going to get clogged up. We may take that claim and say, okay, I acknowledge that you have this idea and you have this claim. This is where I'm at as far as needing to eat maybe 1.6 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight of protein a day. And then we're just arguing over the claim itself and the validity of that claim and the claim in and of itself, rather than what we are going to talk about, which is the technique in which we get there. This is kind of the gist of argument as it stands right now, is he said versus he said. I think I'm right, I think I'm right, and we don't really get anywhere, and then the behavior just kind of stays the same. Now, the one mindset shift that I want to talk about today is changing from a topic rebuttal over to something called a technique rebuttal. Now, what the technique rebuttal does is it disregards the claim and it shifts focus to the technique or the avenue that somebody took to get to that claim itself. And so it says, I acknowledge the claim, I see what you're saying, but let's look at how you arrived at believing in that, rather than let's try and pick apart the claim itself. Now, the benefit of doing a technique rebuttal versus a topic rebuttal is that it is, instead of shifting the focus to us and how we think we're right or the argument that we're making, it shifts from the claim to the person making the claim, and if they took a good and robust and rigorous path to get to that claim. And what we can do is we can remember that the person needs to make the change from within. And so as we're focusing on the path that they took to make that claim, which we're trying to adjust, we can try and shine a light on the pathway that they took to get there and say, hey, you know, it might not have been as rigorous or as scientific or logical of a pathway to get to this claim than you had thought before. And what we do is we can do things like asking the certainty of the claim before and after we do this process. And at the start, they can be very certain. But once we say, well, where did you learn that from? Or where did you hear that from? And they say, oh, I read it in Cosmo magazine or something like that. We can ask something like, do you feel like that is an adequate source to base this claim off of? And it's almost in a way kind of degrading the certainty of that claim itself in a hopefully gentle manner. Now, what we hope to see at the end of the technique rebuttal is that at the end of this whole thing, there's a little bit less certainty in the claim itself. And so that's why we ask before, hey, how, let's say 0 to 10, how certain are you of this claim itself and how true it is? And then once we kind of shine the light on the process that they might have taken, whether that is a good or bad process, we can ask again, now that we've gone through this, how certain are you? And they may say a little bit lower. And the goal is not to prove that they're wrong or that we're right. It is simply to bring awareness and attention to the pathway that they took to get to that claim in hopes that they will be less married to or a little bit more divorced from that claim itself, ideally pushing the belief a little bit towards where we feel like it should go, and then hopefully the behavior will follow after that. Now what we can do with this new understanding of a technique rebuttal rather than topic rebuttal is try and bust myths, to try and change the mindset of the patient, or to try and promote healthier lifestyles and decisions that we might think are more appropriate. Now there is one thing that I want to talk about here, which is make sure that the reasoning that you have as a physical therapist for trying to change their behavior, trying to change their mind is appropriate. We don't want to just stand here and say, well, I think that I'm right about everything, and so I'm going to undermine your understanding of reality so that you can just kind of come on board with me. We want to make sure that there is an understanding that I'm going to possibly fundamentally change this person's beliefs about stuff, and to make sure that those intentions are good and that we're trying to push them towards this kind of end goal of being less maybe symptomatic or more healthy or what have you. Now, if you found this information helpful, you might like my other videos on subjective intensity or perfectionism in movement. And as always, if you found value in this video, make sure to share it with your friends and coworkers so that they can help their patients as well.